Great. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the November 1st, 2022 Plan Commission meeting. First thing we'll do is stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Holtkamp.
Here.
LaRue. Here. Moody.
Here.
Odine.
Here.
Prendergast. Here. Woolsey.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Next, we have the minutes, approval of the minutes of the September 14th, 2022 Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee and minutes from the October 4th, 2022 Plan Commission meeting. I'll take a motion.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I have a comment.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. On page 5 of the meeting minutes for the comp plan or plan commission, on page 5, about 3/4 of the way down, it's the paragraph starts with Commissioner LaRue, which is why I'm interested in it. In here it says she also commented that although the development may not be affordable, and I didn't remember saying that. I watched it 3 times. First of all, to make sure I didn't say it, but then what was it I was saying that this could be? I did not say that I thought that the development going over across from the Eco Village was not affordable. What I was talking about is that it can, this is when I was talking to the group, and I said it can be hard to watch all this development come in. So I'd like to make a motion to strike. She also commented that although the development may not be affordable, and either leave it at that or add, it can be hard to watch all this development come in.
I second.
I believe that's just a Scrivener error that I'm not sure we need to vote on. But,
Okay.
But since we've got a motion and amendment, okay, this is to vote on the correction to the minutes as Patricia.
Correct.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. Any other comments before we vote on approving the amended minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now is the time for public comments for any thing that's not on the agenda. If anyone would like to come forward and let us know what you're thinking about, now's the time. Anyone in council, in the commission? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to ordinances and resolutions. I will close the commission hearing and open a public hearing on the plan unit development, general development plan for an 86-unit two-family development on Paulson Road at Radio Road. First, Sam Burns has a presentation for us.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chair Odine. So as referenced, the first item on, I'm sorry. I'm a little ahead of myself. My name is Sam Burns. I'm the planner with the City of River Falls. As referenced, the first item on the agenda this evening is a general development plan for an 86-unit twin home development on Paulson Road at Radio Road. This application was submitted by Derek Holmes LLC. A reminder, a general development plan is a conceptual level plan that shows items such as potential land uses, site layout, and a location of structures. It is not the final or the highest level of detail for a development plan. More details will be provided when the specific implementation plan comes before the Plan Commission and City Council. The development site is located on the southeast corner of the Paulson Road and Radio Road intersection. The development is on the southeastern part of the parcel of the recently approved Thompson annexation. So as you can see here, Derek Holmes, that's where the application is proposed. Future development to the west of the property, and then the previously heard Saturday Properties application to the north on the other side of Paulson Road. So this lot will be subdivided at some point in time. The developer is proposing 86 twin homes on the site. Above is the site layout. The development will feature sidewalk on both sides of the street and an additional 12-foot trail access on the northeast corner of the property for emergency services access. A trail constructed along Paulson Road as part of the North Loop sewer and water extension will provide a bicycle and pedestrian connection to Whitetail Ridge with its employment, commercial, and green space amenities. The applicant is also providing a mowed trail along the wetlands to the west of the property, as you can see outlined here. This natural amenity is expected to connect to the other side of the parcel as it's developed. An additional child play area will be included on Outlot 1 in the north center of the development. In exchange for these amenities, the applicant is seeking flexibility on their side yard setbacks. They're requesting a change from the code mandated 10 feet to 5 feet. Above are two examples of the unit types the developer is proposing. The development and the aforementioned trails will be HOA maintained. The target demographic for this development will be owner-occupied empty nesters, though the development will not be age restricted. So when considering an application for a planned unit development, the city code requires an application to meet these criteria. Staff has reviewed the project submittal and found it to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the official map has the site zoned as R3 multifamily, which is again consistent with the proposal. For community benefits, the project will provide multifamily housing in a market with a current deficit. Additionally, the development is located close to employment and other goods and services. The character of the proposed buildings or the development is anticipated to be compatible with the surrounding area with quality materials and will serve to provide a cohesive layout. The development is not anticipated to have any negative economic impacts as shown in the annexation budget study. The engineering design standards will be addressed in detail during the SIP specific implementation phase of the process. However, preliminary review by staff has not raised any concerns. Finally, parks and open space. Staff is not recommending any additional parkland dedication or any parkland dedication at all, I should clarify, for this subdivision. Staff review has found the criteria for the GDP has been met. The next steps for the general development plan application is to go before the City Council on November 22nd. If the GDP is approved, a specific implementation plan application will be provided by the applicant and will be presented to Plan Commission and Council at a later date. The GDP and SIP being approved is a requirement for a PUD's final approval. Staff recommends that Plan Commission forward the enclosed council resolution approving the GDP for the site to the City Council with a favorable recommendation. With that, I'll defer back to you, Jardine.
Thank you. Since I've already opened a public hearing, before the council asks questions, let's see if there's anyone in the audience who has anything they'd like to say about this development. Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and reopen the council hearing. Do any of you have any questions for Sam?
So a few. Where's the outlot? Because I was looking. This is one of the reasons I wanted bigger maps. Because you mentioned an outlot with a playscape. Where is the outlot? I couldn't see it on the map.
Yeah, apologies. So as you can see, kind of. Oh.
A little tucked in.
Yeah.
Hit that little thing there.
There we go. I'm sorry. I was on the wrong side of the screen. Yep, that outlot right there. And there's actually going to be a sidewalk connection, sort of cutting it in half, intersecting the outlot right there as well. I apologize. I also motioned to the wetlands, which is, of course, on the western side. That'll be where the mowed trail is.
And you said the property was going to be subdivided, so that's the subdivision is going to be to the right of this map?
Yep, so it'll essentially go down the center of the wetlands approximately, but that'll be surveyed out at a later date. And
what's expected to happen to the west side then?
It's slated for higher density residential, but we've not yet received an application.
And then sorry, if anybody else has a question, I'm just going to go for a hot second here. The trail, is it on the south side of Paulson? The connecting trail down to the business park?
Yep. Just along here, it's going to go up to the Radio Road roundabout and connect all the way down south.
And is there anything coming down the road on the west side there? Any connection or expectation to connect down this? On Radio Road on the west side?
Potentially at a future stage of development, but there's nothing in pertaining to this application that would affect that Radio Road. But that has been an identified area of potential off-street trail.
And then in terms of like the architectural design, I mean, is there any possibility of something without 10 feet of garage sticking out? And because when the doors are tucked behind like that, like I'm just thinking of Halloween yesterday and kids were trick-or-treating, like trying to go up to a door like that on a house is just kind of weird because like you can lose sight of the kids. And I'm just wondering if there's been thought about different designs for the homes. Any thoughts of like backloading the homes? So you have alleys. Again, I'm hung up on alleys, love them too. You know, just not having it look like generic suburbia brown homes on cul-de-sacs and garages.
Yeah, my hunch would be that there might be some difficulties with an alley in terms of the site layout and actually providing the amount of units. That said, this is a GDP level of things, and this certainly can be comments that we provide back to the applicant and work with them or have a conversation with them about a little bit further as they move forward or if they move forward with the SIP.
Right.
And the developer is here if you'd like to have further conversation with them about
I just,
their choices with the site layout or the market that they're going for with this product.
Sure. It's just, I mean, it's just so boring and bland and just not, I mean, I get it. It's easy to build. It's what people want. People want garages in the front. I mean, I get all that, but I mean, you have to meet the market, but it's just, I don't know. I think we can do better, but I'm not trying to make money building stuff. So I totally get making money building stuff. So.
Any other questions?
Go ahead,
I
you.
was just going to ask, why the loss of the 5 feet in the setback?
So that'd be to be able to fit more lots in, essentially. Especially with a twin home product, you might see a little bit smaller side yard setbacks. But probably, and certainly the applicant is welcome to come up and speak as well. But
Something interesting to note about our zoning ordinance, and I don't know why this is the case, but 2-family attached dwelling units in R1 and R2 have a 5-foot side yard setback. In R3, it's a 10-foot side yard setback. I don't know why that's different, but that is the case. And so thinking about what a side yard setback provides, some of it is, a little just extra elbow room on either side of the house. Again, it's sort of that open space, but that is private open space. So if we're having less private open space, what public open space are we getting in exchange for less private open space? And so that's where the outlot for the play area, the additional walking trails to have that be more of a public outdoor amenity, that's kind of the balance that we're seeking.
And R1 and R2 are already 5 foot?
Correct.
Patricia?
Is that 5 feet for each of the units, so you have 10 feet in between the homes? Okay, and how big is the playground area?
that hasn't been specified at this point. Are you talking about the tot lot, the outlot area?
It's sitting there, so.
Yep. I can certainly make a note of it and ask for a little bit more information as we continue through the process as well. I don't have that information on the top of my head.
Okay, and I understand this is an HOA, going to be an HOA unit, and it talks about the unpaved natural trail, and it's going to be maintained by the developer or the HOA, but it's open to the community. So they're going to maintain it, and I would have if I was out at Whitetail Ridge and I wanted to just kind of walk around, that it's not going to be, this is our community, you don't walk on our trails. Okay? I have, I'm not an engineer, but you'd think the way I talk, I always. So we have 88 units on this side of Paulson Road, and we have 190 units on the other. And what I'm understanding is the two driveways, the entrances for both of those are going to be across from one another, correct? And we've got 40 mile an hour on Paulson Road and 45 mile an hour on Radio Road with that roundabout, which I hate, coming around. Is there any concern about the cars coming around quickly, and you've got these two, I'm sure they're going to have to stop, but just as an engineering, do you have any concern with those two not driveways, but roads facing one another with that many on either side, that many dwellers on either side?
Yeah, our city engineers haven't flagged any concerns specifically. Because of the trail and the increased in density, there'll be kind of a natural tendency to slow down that's not there currently, as it's just undeveloped land. In an ideal world, but that's certainly another thing we can note as well. we want to be conscious of traffic flow certainly as we move forward on this. So that's a good note. And I can certainly follow up, but it was not something that was flagged as an issue or during the preliminary engineering review.
So we might have new turn lanes. So there may
Yeah.
be like a left turn lane to get, if you're going kind of south on Paulson Road to get into the Saturday Properties area. There might be a right turn lane to get into this neighborhood. So some modifications may be needed on the roadway to accommodate that, but that's something that the engineer will be
And slow
reviewing.
down.
Yeah, I would second that emotion, because if it's a 40 mile an hour road, it's going to be a shit show unless there's something done to slow people down through that area. It's going to be a mess. So definitely some road improvements for sure.
It's not so much the turning into the addition as those trying to
Mhm.
get out of the addition.
Yeah, because how far?
You know,
What's
that speed limit.
the distance between the roundabout and the road there? How far is that coming around that curve?
I don't have that measurement off the top of my head.
'Cause you might have been out.
I drove it and it's comfortable.
Okay.
It's, you don't,
You can see, like, you feel like
Yeah.
you could see it coming around.
well, now I don't know what they're going to build there, but if it stays flat where the blue and
That's
the green-
stormwater ponding. So
Okay,
it'll
then
be,
you
you'll be able
can,
to see.
yeah, I drove that. You
Yeah, I
can
would-
see.
I took my students out there and we were like looking around
Mhm.
and talking about stuff, but I just couldn't remember coming around. We didn't come from that way around that corner, so I just wasn't sure. But
And standard practices like vision triangles and sight lines will still apply, through this process.
is there any talk or any discussion of doing any kind of pedestrian crossing there, since you are going to have two high density neighborhoods across the street? Is there anything like a median there or some kind of pedestrian crossing space where people could, if they were, I don't know why they would, but maybe if your friend lives across the street and you want to walk across to go see your buddies, there's going to be a way to get across there without getting squashed like a bug?
Not to my knowledge, because there's a pretty good crossing at this roundabout.
No one's going to go down there to cross the street. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, and I could see someone who wants to go to Whitetail ride their bike being in the, not this property, but the one across the street wanting to.
From
keep
Saturday
up,
out onto the
yeah,
bike lane.
going out,
Yeah,
but
absolutely. So
Just something for you guys to be aware of, the safety part of it.
We can certainly make a note of that. Yep.
yeah, if we're going to put in bike trails, we need to be able to cross the street, and people aren't going to go to the corner. Just reality.
Question about the infiltration basin and the wet pond that's being set up to accommodate other development adjacent to this. So it'll be, it's going to have the capacity for what you speculate could be going there.
There have been preliminary discussions between a future user of this other parcel of this other property, and discussions about sharing that infiltration or outlot potentially.
Okay.
There's connections to the east and the south. There's nothing west. Obviously, you're going across the wetland, so it's probably not ideal in the middle. But is there a thought of, like, to the south coming, connections to the west from the southern end of this development, or is the expectation it would go into whatever comes south and then go west?
I believe so. So there's actually a bit of, it's not shown here, but I believe there's a bit of a weird dog leg on this property where they're not flush with each other, and so that makes some connections a little bit difficult in terms of in addition to some topography on the site. Again, that's kind of a discussion for the potential future user of the western piece of the site.
Right. Well, you wouldn't want to build across the wetland anyway, if you can help it. It's a nice amenity.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Sam? If not, we've got a resolution in front of us. I'll take a motion.
Trying to find the,
I move, I move to adopt the general development plan for 86-unit twin home development.
Thank you.
second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just want to make a statement on, I had a discussion with Emily Shively before the meeting. One of the things that guides my decisions on this is looking back at the housing study that we did. And I feel that even though, people might have an opinion about this location, and we've talked about this with the other developments that are nearby, is this the right use? It does answer the shortages that we have in multifamily housing, and So that's one of the things that I think I just want to remind people that, we're using guiding documents to make these decisions. At least I'm looking at those kind of things. And so that's why I'm in favor of this. So
I would have liked to have seen it become more of a commercial use type thing north of town. And I don't know if they know that with Man Valley, there's going to be semis going back and forth pretty soon. But it's not my property, and
I think you're right. It's if we didn't have the kind of shortages for housing that the study indicates, then maybe we'd be thinking about this a little differently. But I think this is satisfactory.
So, okay. Any further comments?
I definitely, especially with the point about the semis, I think that road can really be a mess if it's not addressed. So I know this isn't the developer's call necessarily in terms of what they're building there, but I think in terms of just people getting not squashed, you want to do something with that road to slow it down and make it safer. But I agree. We need housing. So.
Okay. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Sam. And if we next have the planned unit development specific implementation plan for the Uplands, which Sam will tell us about.
Thanks so much. The second item on the agenda for this evening is a specific implementation plan for a 101 unit multifamily development on Paulson Road, also known as the Uplands. Now, this project is proposed by Frisbee Companies and Amcon Companies. A reminder, the SIP is the final phase of the PUD process. The GDP application was approved during the September 27th council meeting and also came before this body. The development site is located along Paulson Road, just north of the Tattersall distilling facility. The above image is a rendering of the building. The 4-story apartment building will be made up of 8 studio units, 7 studio/alcove units, 53 one-bedroom units, 15 one-bedroom plus den units, and 17 two-bedroom units. The development will also include staff offices, lobby space, a large community room, a dog washroom, a bike workshop room, and 3 individual business workrooms. In addition to the indoor amenities, the applicant is also proposing outdoor amenities in the form of a public courtyard with landscape gathering spaces, outdoor exercise space and game areas, connection to nearby trails, and an outdoor deck on the second floor for residents. The SIP submittal does have one change from the GDP that came before Planning Commission and City Council. The applicant is having difficulty finding a commercial tenant for the ground floor. Instead, the applicant would potentially fill that space with additional housing units. The review of parking during the GDP phase determined that sufficient parking is provided on the site, even if the commercial space is converted into additional residential units. The next steps for the specific implementation plan is to go before the City Council on November 22nd. The SIP is in substantial conformance with the GDP, and therefore staff recommends forwarding the enclosed resolution to City Council with a favorable recommendation. With that, back to you, Chair Odine.
Thank you. Let's get a motion in a second, and then we can have a discussion about it.
I move we accept the plan unit development specific implementation plan for the Uplands, formerly Paulson Road Apartments.
I'll second that.
I think I got it all.
Yes, yes, you did. Thank you. Okay, and questions for Sam?
How many additional units would the retail space down below equate to?
So the applicant is here. They might have a better idea of exactly what that number would be.
Sure, thank you. Matt Frisbee with Frisbee Companies, and Alan Catchpole is here for the civil engineering too. If you have any comments for him? The space that we had in there was going to be a franchise fitness space, and we had set aside about 5,000 square feet for that. We did a pretty hot pursuit on that. There's a little bit of some uneasiness with what's maybe happening in the economy for the fitness world again, so hopefully that turns around. But at this time, we're proposing putting 5 units in that place. And that'd be a mixture of maybe 1 studio, the rest would be 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. So 106 total.
And I assume that would be done, like once it's done, you're not getting that fitness center in there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. When this came before us, before Mr. Sumner showed up, and my understanding of his concern is that there's water flow from his property that goes through a 48-inch culvert and into the city's retention pond. But when you build this, there's going to be created, I wrote down an outlet control structure that would slow the water down and will back up onto his property. It will eventually drain, but during a big event, there might be significant water on his property. Has anyone talked to him about that and made sure no structures can be
We'll pull up the site plan
damaged?
real quick.
Okay.
But yes, we have had conversations. There we go. This doesn't show the full civil engineering, but yes, we've had several conversations with Sumners, and we were actually here in one of your rooms, was one of the last ones. There is an easement that was established here a few years ago across that property to accommodate that water outlet. And then that sits here right now, if you can see on the screen. That's being all redone and redesigned to handle that extra flow. So this berm that's there existing was already meant to handle the rate control.
Okay.
And that berm stays intact. Just where the outlet and the size of that outlet is going to change as part of the redesign in there. So yes, the water, I wouldn't say it backs up. It's just a rate control system on that berm to hit that outlet and then down to the pond. So
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and we reviewed that with Sumners and explained it. And I think they're on board with that.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. Bottom line is there was a citizen concern that water is going to back up on their property. You've talked to them.
Right.
And they're obviously not here today, so you must have waylaid their concerns. So thank you.
Any further questions?
This, again, not for this particular development, but if we're putting 101, how many was the other one? 86 and 190, that's 400 units on Paulson Road. What's going to happen to that little intersection at Paulson and Main Street? Like if they all come down?
McDonald's?
Yeah, what's going to happen at McDonald's? Again, I mean, it's already a wicked stupid intersection, so like how much dumber is it going to get with 400 cars driving? This isn't, again, not the developer's problem, it's our problem.
Yep. And so far, there haven't been any concerns raised by engineering. I will note that this is part of a tax increment district, and there may be resources that we can utilize to address intersection improvements.
I think we're going to have to, because that, right there at Paulson and Main, that makes that weird dog leg to go right. And okay. I mean, I assume the engineers and firefighters, whole conversation, but anyway. All right. We'll take their word for it.
Any other questions? Great, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Super, thank you, Sam. Next, planning and development update from Emily Shively.
Thank you. Commissioners, just a handful of kind of updates scheduling where things are. Last week on October 25th, the council approved the general development plan for the Saturday Properties project, which is just across from the Townsend Heights one we looked at today. They also approved the general development plan for the Wells neighborhood on Apollo Road. So the next step for those two would be to move to the specific implementation phase. That might be a couple months out. Saturday Properties might be ready to come back in December. I'm not sure that they're ready to do that quick turnaround, but we should see both of those in the next few months. And then again, after these two applications, they'll be going to council on November 22nd. Again, if we don't see Saturday Properties come in December, I don't know that we'll have a regular meeting on December 6th, I believe would be our next one. However, at our comp plan steering committee that we just had, we still have a lot of meetings coming up. So just wanting to make sure that on your calendar is November 17th, looking at implementation actions. And then there would be a meeting on December 15th for the comp plan steering committee looking at the bike ped plan. And then after that, in January on the 3rd, looking at the outdoor rec plan. So again, even if we don't have applications, development review things coming through in the next couple of months, they will be coming through soon. And we still have plenty of work and things to focus on. And then the last thing is the comp plan. We'll be looking at that on January 19th. So not a slow season for planning.
Are those meetings at 6:30, like the 17th, and are they all at 6:30?
Correct.
Thank you.
Emily, over this calendar year, how many new units?
I do not know that off the top of my head, but I would be happy to bring that back for you. We are going to be starting to put together the annual report
Good.
as we're getting towards the end of the year here, and I think we've seen a lot come through.
500 in the last
couple months.
Right?
That I think we did Sterling 4th in December of last year, but I think Highview 7th might have
Yes.
come through in 2022. So that was, finishing off that subdivision, and then Lake George Lofts. We saw the GDP for South Point. We haven't seen their SIP yet down by Comforts of Home. And then all of these projects we've seen
The
recently.
Sycamore and.
So, yep.
So-
Yep. The Sycamore was approved in 2021, but
Oh.
it's under construction now. So yeah, there's been quite a bit of activity.
Emily, if I can interject, we should be getting an update to the 2018, the oft-cited 2018 housing study. That's currently under staff review still, but I do know firsthand that they did update and increased our needed unit totals as well. So we certainly have done a lot of good work and approved some much needed housing units, and that's consistent with what we've been shown to need by that housing study, by that independent third-party consultant. So so we'll have that ready to share with council members and commissioners and the public soon, hopefully. So.
And not related to this the housing stuff, but can we get I would love to see something about Paulson Road and what the traffic impacts and how they can 400 new units on that road, assuming some of them are going to be coming towards Main Street. I just am curious about that, so I'd love some more info on that one, please.
And Saturday Properties said that they were going to give you some properties that they've done that I could, on a weekend just kind of go by and take a look at exactly what they're talking about. I understand gated community has kind of got a preconceived idea, but I'd like to see what the heck they're talking about because I'm not really familiar with. And the thing we got didn't really show us, a map with a bunch of buildings on it. It's so if they could get that to me before we look at the SIP, I'd appreciate it.
Yep, I'm actually looking back through the minutes from the last meeting, and I think Mr. Laverty said that the product that they're proposing is a new one for Saturday Properties, so they don't have another one that they have done, but they had some similar projects that are going to be like this that have been done by other developers, and he said that the Springs,
The two in Woodbury.
Lake Elmo, and then Sundance and Woodbury would be two comparable types of developments that would be very similar to the product that they're proposing here.
Okay. If I can't find them, I'll call you. I'm out here in Woodbury. I can't find the Springs.
Yes, this is why we want to focus on downtown.
Yes.
So I did have a discussion with Emily about some of the things related to, it'd be nice to have kind of a dashboard of these categories that are in the study. We're doing really well with certain categories, but there's another category of shallow subsidy rental units, 205, and I'm sure that probably is recommended to increase. And where are we with that? And that's over the course of that's over the course of 30 years. So you kind of break that down, but just try to figure out, as we approve these, I know we're putting a dent into things, but just a more comprehensive idea of what we're doing.
As I've said before, the fact that landlords in this town can deny someone who finally gets their Section 8 voucher, and we had those focus groups and the ladies were telling us how excited these people are. Oh, yes, I finally got my voucher. And they can't find housing because the landlords won't take them. And if there's some way we could, help that where you finally do get this document, you do have a house you can get to, someone needs to rent to them.
I think that's a gap in what like I mentioned to Emily. Those are the supports that need to be in place for people to get into the properties. And in Minnesota, it's different. And But here we don't have that.
Can cities do fair housing ordinances? I mean, I know there's like this federal fair housing law that has like sex and race and things like that, but can cities do, because I know other cities do have fair housing laws that explicitly prohibit discrimination based on source of payment. So landlords can't discriminate if it's a Section 8 voucher. Can we do that in Wisconsin? Is that a power the city has?
So the quick answer is I'm not sure. We have broad home rule authority in Wisconsin, but quite honestly, I wouldn't want to try to float an idea of an answer to you without doing the research. But that's something we certainly could check for you.
Yeah, and that's kind of a question for our corporate counsel, I would think, because it would not at all surprise me that we are hamstrung by state statute from what we can do.
That's what I was curious about. I know other states allow it. I just didn't know if we did.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a good question for council. So, okay, anything else for Emily? Great. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.